Ready to go?
Yes,
Okay.
get ready to go.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience. Welcome, everyone, to the Tuesday, May 16th, 2023 Town of Monroe Planning Board regular meeting. I'd like to point out the fire exits. There are two in front of me and to the rear of the audience. There's one, the main entrance that everyone came through, and then there's another over here, out to my right. Noreen, would you do the roll call, please?
Bonnie Franson,
Here?
Pat Shea,
Here.
Nick Napoli,
Here.
Dylan Penn,
Here.
Luis Rivera.
Here.
He will be filling in for Jeff Manson this evening.
With that, let's please stand for the pledge. All right, first item on the agenda is BJ's site plan. If you'd come on up. How was Ireland?
Oh, that's great. Fantastic. Yeah.
Let's get to the important stuff first.
I've yet to wake up.
If you'd state your names for the record, and then,
Pat Smith with RD Management.
thank you.
George Lithgow from Jacobowitz and Gubitz.
Shirok Thakar from Bud Thakar Engineering.
All right, and would you like to summarize why you're here before us this evening?
The reason we're here tonight is to seek amendment of two conditions that were put in place in the original approval.
You need
On
to
the
stay
mic.
on the mic. It'll be red.
Okay, so there are two conditions of approval which were put into place in September of 2022, which require us to get approval of the site plan from, or actually, it says approval of the site plan. Orange and Rockland gives a consent to the proposed improvements. That was the result of submitting plans to Orange and Rockland in early 2022, meetings with Orange and Rockland to go over the site plan, resulted in a letter in June 21st of 2022 with a list of conditions that needed to be met on the site plan. That was reviewed by the engineers. They sent a letter in October, on October 12th of 2022, indicating that they had accepted all of those conditions. The site plan had been revised, and actually the revised site plan was submitted to Orange and Rockland at the end of September 2022. So we got that far. We were waiting for the letter in response to the engineer's letter, and a minor bit of information about the safety plan that was required, and we've been waiting ever since. I did the revised plan to you for censure and review and censure on February 1st, 2023. It was also, shortly after that, the construction plans were submitted by the engineers for the filling station. And those have been waiting in the building inspector's office until he gets a copy of the signed site plan. You were very helpful to us in March when you did grant approval to certain modifications to allow tree clearing activities to take place before the April 1st deadline was in place. So we've still been trying, and Pat can tell you how many times he's tried, by email, by telephone, to contact Orange and Rockland and get the letter that they said they would send when the site plan was revised as they directed. It's been revised. It's been provided to them for review. The letter explains what was revised, and we have not had the favor of a response since that time. So essentially, the site plan now does what Orange and Rockland wanted, what that condition was intended to address, and there is really no need for that condition anymore. The other requirement was in condition 5, which was a condition that required an easement be recorded. We, again, had discussions with Orange and Rockland. They were looking for an additional width. The site plan is actually designed to conform to that request. It shows the boundaries for the easement that was requested. But again, we have, the last we heard from the Orange and Rockland folks were that the easement would be forthcoming shortly. Pat can tell you more about the details of that. I was not involved, but we again did everything that they requested. The plan does what they wanted. It shows a easement area, easement boundary consistent with that request. It can't be changed without your approval. So we see that there's no need for the easement either. So we're asking that those two conditions be changed or modified to remove them.
When did you last submit plans to O&R, or now Con Edison, I guess?
October 12th. And it was essentially, it was the exact same plan that they had approved in June, in the June 21st letter.
Well, when you say approved, they approved it subject to revisions, which they had to review.
Correct, yeah. But
Okay.
we comply with all of the comments in their June 21st letter.
So, Sean, do you have any comments on this?
I don't, other than it does appear that the plans were revised pursuant to their comments, but I don't want to speak for O&R as to whether or not
They're
they have
satisfactory.
Exactly, yep.
Right. Ashley?
Sorry. I did propose some amendments in a third amendment resolution that would modify those two conditions that were being discussed. Right now, the requirements were to be satisfied prior to the signing of the plans. The proposed amendment would be prior to the issuance of a building permit. It's on the 8th page, condition 5.
So, here's my issue. Let's say they do want an easement. And are you showing something on the map with an easement?
We are, yes. We're showing the new 135-foot wide easement. Right now, there is an easement in place. We did locate the easement, but it's only for 95 feet.
And that
So-
was one of their conditions in our letter, was that they do want that easement.
Okay. So, there's an easement shown on a map, but there isn't an actual legal document, a legally documented easement. Was there going to be, or it was simply going to be what's shown on the map?
So is they said that they would be sending a proposed easement to that then? All we know is that they asked for a proposed easement, they said they would send it, and that was, what, November? January. So we've never received it, but on the other hand, we have sent them a plan which shows where the easement will be, the boundary line. And we can't change that plan unless you review it and approve it.
So, I'm a little confused because, so the plans were sent in October, but you're saying when was then the latest communication with O&R?
That would have been in January. I received an email in January saying we would have the easement shortly. And then there's literally been nothing. They've not responded to emails, voicemails. I think you even reached out to them yourself. And I don't know what happened. I am still in contact with the engineering department. They're still very responsive. So when we do start, we're going to follow through with the meetings, on-site meetings prior to all. We're going to comply with everything they're asking us to do. But I'm just getting nothing from either the legal or the real estate department.
And so, if the engineering department is communicative, did they not say that the plans reflect what they requested?
They were surprised that we didn't have the easement. They thought that it was done, and they were just waiting for us to notify them so they can come out and have this pre-construction meeting. So the engineering department is fully on board with us going forward.
Okay, so it shouldn't be difficult for us to get some email from the engineering department that they're good to go, except for some filed easement?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how, if they issue those type of things or not. I've had phone conversations with them. It was really more to say, what's going on? Is there somebody over there that can pick up in this guy, Eric Grum's absence or disappearance, wherever he went? And that was it. And they just say, well, I'm surprised. I thought we were good to go. So I don't know what kind of an email I can get from the engineering department. That seems, they basically pushed everything over to the real estate people once they were okay with the plans.
So perhaps they think that ultimately, does the real estate department then normally finalize and say, we're good to go?
Well, they're the ones that are going to be generating the easement, or their legal department. And then
Right.
the letter that they reference, once we comply with all the conditions in the June 21st letter, they were going to send us a letter of no objection. I believe it's a no
Okay.
objection letter.
So that's probably the engineering department can't do anything because they're expecting legal to have some final letter or document.
No, they say, once you guys start, just call us, we'll come out. So they're ready
no,
to go.
Right, but what I'm saying is, even though engineering, has reviewed it, they're not going to send an email. They expect their legal to say, no objection, et cetera, et cetera.
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay. Does everybody understand what's happening? So the proposal is that, again, we allow the site plan to be filed. It's showing an easement, but we don't have a formal recognition by O&R that the plans and easement in their totality, as per the real estate department, is acceptable. So the effect could be that something changes and we would have to do a site plan amendment. So, but we're talking about still triggering this, that we can sign the plans, but we're not going to allow anything to happen within the easement, or we're requiring a letter still prior to building permit?
Yes, that's how it's been proposed now, and the applicant, of course, would be proceeding, at their own risk to have the plans reviewed from a building permit to start that process, because I understand that the building department won't review, any construction plans without the signed plan, so they'll be able to start that process, but in the event something changes and they require, another amendment, then they'll have to come before you.
Okay, so the benefit is it allows you at least to go and start the building permit process, but we're still looking for something from Orange and Rockland, which the building inspector would have to receive.
I just point out that everything has been designed on that plan to conform with Orange and Rockland's requirements. It's been provided to them. They've had the opportunity to review it. Months and months have passed.
I appreciate that, George, but
Which-
we don't have evidence of that.
You don't need the evidence of that, because right now it's designed to be consistent with the easement that will come eventually at some point, perhaps.
Well, there's two elements. It's the easement and it's the improvements.
The improvements have been,
And that they've signed off and allow you to do the improvements within their easement. Because we understand that they require some kind of approval, some kind of sign off.
they will, what their letter says is, if you do the following list of things, we will issue a letter that we have no objection to those improvements.
Right, that was from engineering.
No, that's from Mr. Grum.
Okay, that is from okay, but
Right,
they have not issued a letter.
correct. But
So,
the
and we have
improvements-
no evidence of that, so.
Well, you have evidence of the list.
Correct.
It's in their letter.
Right, but you submitted
on their-
that, you submitted that.
Yes.
But we don't know that they have finally signed off on that and said, okay, or that they want a detail changed. So there is no formal letter. Now, from my perspective, and it's up to the planning board, I'm okay with signing the site plan and moving forward, but then requiring that there can't be anything happening until, or there cannot be a start to construction until there's a letter on file.
Traditionally, my experience with Orange and Rockland is a request of this magnitude is done through our Quest portal. You're assigned a case number, and once it's handed off, you can track and trace. I think that's a sufficient documentation of, we've spoken to this person, it's handed off to this person in the process, and engineering is at the end, but that's how we've been able to track within O&R, Con Ed, different utilities on requests like this.
Well, we've been using Mr. Grum as our reference number.
Yeah.
He's the person assigned to deal with this. But to get back to that issue is, right now it's designed in a way that is consistent with their letter and their requirements. That leaves, if they agree, we don't have to come back.
If they agree, right.
Yes, and if
So-
they don't agree.
So that's
but-
my point. So if we move forward and we amend the resolution and we now have the, we allow this site plan to be filed and that it's at the building permit stage that you have to have the letter, you can at least be starting that process because Ben is going to have to review it. But from my perspective, and it's up to each of the board members, I wouldn't go further. I wouldn't say you can start work within the Orange and easement, right of way, absent that letter, because they've indicated that a letter's needed. They've said it's forthcoming. I don't know what's happened. I did reach out to them via email as well as a phone call, and I didn't hear from them. So I don't know what the issue is, but I also don't feel comfortable as one planning board member saying that whatever you submitted was adequate, because only they can say it's adequate.
They have said, if you do the following list of things, we will issue a letter.
Yes, and they have not issued a letter,
but
so
we
they
did
have
the
not
things.
confirmed that what you show on the map is adequate. You think it is, but we don't have final confirmation. So I think that there's still assurances here that they won't go beyond the building permit phase. And let's start there, and if it's still a problem, again, we can revisit it. But at least let's get to the building permit stage instead of signing. And if they do make changes or want changes to the site plan, again, you're kind of proceeding with the potential of having to come back and do a site plan amendment. So,
We acknowledge we have to come back if it changes.
Yeah.
If they send a letter and say, oh, we want this thing moved over here, and we can do that, we'll come back to you.
right.
But if they continue not to send something, how long are we going to wait for the building permit?
I think you have to come back to the board. If you're through the building permit, phase, and you're ready to have building permits issued, and, maybe we get a higher authority in the town of Monroe to give a call over to Orange and Rockland and see what's going on. And I can try again, but I don't understand what the holdup is. And that's all I can say, but at least you proceed now instead of to assigning and getting held up there. At least you can continue to submit construction plans and let Ben review them, et cetera.
So if we get a letter from them next week or tomorrow that says, we have no objection, we finally looked at your plan, tell Ms. Branson that we're okay, or just, we have no objection, which is all they'll
Right.
really say. Can we just go to the building inspector and take care of it without coming back?
You never said, right, if you don't need any different site plan, if there are no amendments to the site plan, then it doesn't matter. You don't have to come back to us. But we just want a stop in place at the building permit stage now to get something from O&R saying it's okay that you're doing work within their easement area. If you don't have site plan modifications that result from their letter, then I don't think there's anything that has to be changed. If the easement area that you propose is acceptable to them, then I don't see an issue. I just don't know, as far as the easement, whether we need to see what ultimately was filed. And maybe that could be like prior to C of O or some other stage, if that's necessary, or is it sufficient that the easement is shown on the map?
Well, the condition right now says we have to record the easement.
Okay.
If we record an easement, whatever they wanted, it really is of no moment to the board. You wanted us to record the easement.
If they want you to record an easement and you don't record an easement, I think then maybe the stop in that part of the process would be maybe a C of O, because it should be recorded.
Well, there's a bigger question there, which is if they want something beyond what they need,
Well, that's a different story. I acknowledge that. So they may want something different, and then if that's not satisfactory
but
to
right
you.
now, we've shown
but-
that easement line on the on
Right.
the site plan as if it existed today, and the improvements that have been constructed are consistent with the easement
what-
that they currently have.
as far as what's been represented to date, but there's no final sign-off from them. And why, we don't know. Could they make changes? Possibly. Maybe they won't. Maybe they will. We don't know. But again, I think we're willing to, if the planning board agrees, to change the language of the resolution to at least have a different target time when that letter has to come in, so that, again, you get to advance them.
I think that works, Bonnie. Just as long as you recognize that we will probably be back here in 4 weeks when the building building permit's ready to
And then
be signed.
we'll address it at that
Because
time.
I'm going to continue to work for this. Even if you waive the condition entirely, I would still continue to get this, because they said, because you said, they said they're going to issue a letter. I want that letter as well, because I don't want to have them coming back to me 5 years
Well,
from now
that's the thing. I
saying
mean,
something else.
it's a
But-
risk for you as well, so.
But at
you
the
know,
same time, I really want to get going, though. So
Right.
we're going to lose another construction season if
Yeah,
we don't get
I
going.
understand, and I think, again, we've already been flexible as far as the tree cutting. And I think it would be in your interest to reach out to the supervisor. And I will also reach out to the supervisor and communicate to him what is happening, because he may have, a representative there that he can speak to, or he can go to someone who can speak to them, because it isn't reasonable. So I appreciate that this is holding things up. Nick, anything you want to add to that?
No, you just nailed it. I was going to say, this letter, if it comes from this building, the permit process takes, what, like 3-4 weeks? During that time, let's just get somebody over there just to knock on the door. And like, I hate it when this happens.
They have
So
to
I totally
stalk
feel
'em.
your pain. What? Oh.
Give them some, gift cards or something. So, Lou,
No comment.
thank you.
But you need the letter.
Okay.
That's all I have to say.
Pat?
I think that approving it for the building permit, subject to a letter from Orange and Rockland without any changes, that's probably as far as we can go. Because if they want changes, you're going to have to change it anyway. That's all.
Or if you disagree, you're going to have to then weigh and balance what you want to do. But, right, exactly. Dylan?
Super annoying at this point if they change anything. Super annoying. During that 4-week process, go over there. I would even go over there for you, because I can't stand this
You
process.
don't want to create a conflict of interest.
Oh.
We appreciate the offer, but
We should send
I
Nick.
feel your pain.
So generally speaking, what kind of changes could Con Ed come back with?
You never know. That's the thing. It's better for them just to sign off, give them the paper that they're due, and then they could just continue their work. They've had it for since January, months,
October, yeah.
October. So there's
Yeah,
no
the-
reason why O&R hasn't responded. It's just being slow, lazy. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand. I feel for you. That's why we wouldn't rely on, I know a guy, he's emailed me once or twice. It should be a documented portal like traditionally used, and you can track who's it with. But I'm trying to understand, with the understanding of the site plan and the easement, what could be, what they want beyond that, or what could some of the changes be? What have you seen?
So my biggest concern is the main stormwater pond is located solely within the easement. So if the owner wanted to change anything, that could drive the whole elevation of their site in a different direction.
You think that there is a problem with the protocol? Maybe they're just ignoring it because we're not using the proper protocol of going through the portal?
I'm not familiar with the portal.
Is the portal, so I don't know how you've used it, is the portal related more to when you have, you want or need to connect to electric or gas, or is it even for easements, all these kind of issues?
All requests through ONR, Con Edison, all utilities. It's assigned to a case manager, and that case manager is your direct point of contact, and end users have the ability to track who submitted what at what dates and upon whose review it is with. And I think that would help us in our review as a planning board as well as their team to connect with ONR.
Has anyone directed you to the portal? Were you aware of the portal?
No, I'm not aware of it. No one ever directed us to it. So if they wanted us to go through the portal, they've had multiple opportunities to tell us this is what you need to do. Again, other than the real estate people, I've had no issue getting in touch with people at ONR. They've been very responsive. It's just this, and the real estate person was actually very responsive right up until he wasn't. So,
Problem is when it comes to a decision-making time, because then it's nobody's responsibility and it's not tracked.
Just to clarify, I looked at the letter. There is no portal mentioned. Mr. Grum says, if there are any questions, please call me or email me. So
I think the best we can do is we can change the resolution this evening. In the next 3 to 4 weeks, let's all make a concerted effort to find out why this is being delayed. I think that to the extent the town is willing, talk to the supervisor, perhaps there's someone, a contact that he could communicate with. And, I don't know, it just could be overload. I have no idea. Just don't understand. So why don't we go through the resolution then?
Want to keep scrolling to the 8th page? You'll see the
Hey guys, real quick, which department is not responding? The legal? Real estate? Okay,
and then real estate will be working with legal to produce the easement.
gotcha, okay.
Did you submit your site plans for real estate to review directly with,
The man's name is Eric Grum.
just through email?
G-U-R-M-M. No, it was just email.
Yeah.
And we send him a full set of plans, and then he dispersed it to the engineering people.
just to further clarify, there's 7 CCs, I assume at ONR, on Mr. Grum's letter of June 21. So there's a lot of people that know about it.
Who was the sender? So I have an email I can reference for them to look up.
A letter from Orange and Rockland is sent by Eric Grum.
Oh, no, yeah, your letter,
Oh,
when you talk.
Sent the plans to them via email, a Dropbox.
Okay, what's your email address, just so if I could...
It went to Eric, do you have that email address there? Eric Grum's. Because we sent it to his email address and offered to send him hard copies, but the Dropbox was sufficient.
Okay, so then I'll just reference, because I know someone who works over there.
Oh, okay, great.
And
Okay.
so I'm going to give him a buzz and be like, hey, what's the deal with, and I'll just say BJ's,
Right,
the company is looking to get the ball rolling and there's been a stop. So I'll see if that does
Hey,
anything.
do you have the letter from ONR? I can
So
send it to you.
I have Eric, I have his email address, and I would just say we should coordinate with Ashley if there's any communications. Okay? So I'm on this page. So it looks like condition number 5 has been changed from prior to the signing of the plans to prior to the issuance of a building permit. Applicant shall file the amended ONR electric easement as depicted on the plans. And then number 7, prior to the issuance of a building permit, applicant shall provide proof of ONR's approval of the improvements within the ONR easement area, and the applicant shall be required to comply with all conditions of such approval as a continuing condition of this approval. Were those the changes? So with that, I will make a motion that the planning board approve the third amended resolution of conditional approval for the site plan for RD Management LLC. May I have a second?
Second.
Noreen?
Bonnie Franson,
Aye.
Pat Shea,
Aye.
Nick Napoli,
Oh, aye, sorry.
thank you. Dylan Penn,
Aye.
Luis Rivera.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that, we'll file the decision, and depending on, Sean does the review of the plans to see if they satisfy whatever conditions are required prior to map signing, as does Ashley, and then, once they're in order, I sign them, and we'll see what happens.
Sean, could you just clarify, you had a review memo in March?
I had done a review of the resolution conditions. I noted a number of them that were still missing, but I believe most of them were for building permit with the exception of the O&R items. So I can do a follow-up memo.
Sean normally has a memo that would say that everything that's shown on the plans are acceptable and that I can sign. It's something for the record.
What were the,
Not on the mic.
But we were essentially there except for the two conditions at issue, and there's a minor change that has to be made to the tree plan note. Clarify it's a site plan, not a subdivision.
I defer to Sean. He'll get us a memo when
I will.
we're ready to sign. So you can consult with him if there's any question. You're our engineer. Okay? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. You're taking off July and August. Thank you. So who do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I did get through the 4:18 minutes, which I will bring up, but other than that, we got them all in a bunch. I have not seen all of them because the 4:18 took me a while to get through. Well, so I think we need to talk about style and how the minutes should appear. So they're really supposed to be paraphrased because, and I know I appreciate that you were concerned about, because it's the stipulation and the
Right.
litigation, having it as close to, ensuring that you have the substance. So now it almost comes across as a transcript. And so I was doing edits, but then just as a general comment, and I'll go through it, as an example. If you both want to, is there any other matters we need to take care of this evening? Okay, so you don't have to stay here for this.
Anything,
Suffered enough.
Yes, because we're gonna probably approve them, so. We're gonna approve some minutes subject to some revisions that I've already done. Good night.
Good night.
And I know if I'm CC'd on an email, that means I'm not responsible. I just take note. So it doesn't matter how many people are CC'd on it, nobody's responsibility.
Well, before we get to the minutes, that is concerning, that if there's a portal, and that's the standard method of practice, that this hasn't been done at all. And I don't know if that portal's people are more familiar with it. Let's say that's more Con Ed's territory or Orange and Rockland as well.
In my experience, both utility providers are adamant. If you email me with a request, they are pushed to that portal. Email one. If he has a relationship with somebody that didn't do that, shame on them.
Right. And if he was having that conversation, I find it difficult to believe they wouldn't have mentioned the portal. I don't know what happened, but ultimately, I am concerned that we're saying, go ahead and start making improvements within Orange and Rockland's easement area without them consenting to it. So I don't, if they have still issues after the building permit stage, and I suspect they will go out and check the portal, at this point. And we can have some follow-up, but I did email and I also called that individual just to say or ask, what's the process, what's happening? Had someone called me back, they may have said, there's a portal. But, there's an issue here, although, like I said, I mean, if most people know there's a portal, I don't know why their engineers wouldn't know, although I believe their engineers come from New Jersey, and I don't know how much New York work they've done. Pennsylvania. So I don't know how much
Even worse.
work they've done within,
Rock comes from,
yeah, so I don't know how much work they've done, in this area. So it just may have been a newbie thing, so.
The fact that they haven't responded and it's been so long makes me suspicious that maybe there's something going on that they.
Well, that's the concern also. Why is there no response? Was there a change? And
Out of process.
right, and so, or perhaps Mr. Eric no longer works in that department or with O&R.
there have been
And,
changes.
and it's someone new, and everybody's sending an email and a phone number to someone who's not on the job anymore.
That's a great point.
So we just don't know, and it's really not our job to know.
I know there's been many.
Yeah. I mean, just like everywhere else with COVID, retirements, people decided to do whatever, make changes, so.
And that's the benefit of having a system, a protocol.
Exactly.
Things don't get lost.
Exactly.
And the accountability is there.
Exactly. So if you're not getting your projects approved, then, and you're in the portal, there you can say O&R, here it's documented. Right now, there's very little, so, officially.
It's sticky.
It is, and it's a little uncomfortable.
And there's no utility that's going to approve through emails. That's not a professional review.
And maybe once upon a time, Orange and Rockland did those things, but that was probably a while ago. So, all right, so I went through this, I will share it with you, the revisions, but just sort of some general, rules for the road. So, okay, so I'll describe it to you. So,
I have a copy in front of.
okay, so under returning projects, if you're going to say Mr. Peterzak and then have kind of paraphrasing after that, you just need to put a dash after the name. Because it starts to read like a sentence and so it doesn't make sense.
Okay,
But just put a dash.
no problem.
But if it makes sense, Chairman Franson said that, then you don't need to put the dash. So I tried to do that as much as possible. I made some typographical, changes. I did try and paraphrase it a little bit more, just so you
Okay.
could see what I mean when
Right, okay.
you don't need to include anything.
Yeah, because like I said, this one I was a little concerned because of what's going on with the project.
So the other thing, there was no punctuation, so I had to put punctuation in. They were basically very long,
Yeah, I didn't-
run-on paragraphs.
Part of it I didn't get back to finish doing my final review on. I had just wanted to get it out
So
because it was taking forever.
So a lot of this is just, again, it's just punctuation, putting dashes in. So I did have a question for the group. And Dylan, you may not have been here. I don't believe you were, because in some of the other
No, he's
items,
out
it
this
says Dylan absent, so. So Mr. Galucci, stipulation specifies 3,550 square feet exclusive above-like basements and patios, non-habitable space. So that doesn't make sense to me, exclusive of basements and patio, non-habitable space. I think that's probably what it should read. Because he's saying it's 3,550 square feet exclusive, like excluding, and I'm guessing he's gonna say basements and patios, non-habitable space. So I would just say of. I don't know if anyone recalls or if that makes sense. Yeah.
If I might suggest, and maybe you've thought about this already, but I've always needed a little bit of help with the grammar and everything when I write letters. So I subscribe to this thing called Grammarly, and it's very helpful. It doesn't cost very much, and I'm sure George could, put it on the system, but it will make suggestions. Yeah.
Hanging.
It seems like Word Docs is just basically creating an instant transcript of,
Well, it also
And then
puts
you
it-
have to
tells
go
your
in and-
ums and ums and your
exactly.
likes and likes.
And that's
so
some of the things I was
I
taking
try to
out.
catch all of them as I'm going through. But there's a lot. Or repeating it, and I try to get the repeat out.
I'd like to, as much as possible, go to paraphrasing, because probably this one paragraph, if someone's expressing the same concern or comment over and over again, it probably could go down to like 2 sentences, so.
Okay.
Okay, so then DG management, when we record the decisions, it should have the ayes, the nays, whether someone's absent, and whether they're abstentions. Because in that first DG management, later on, in one of them, you say that Dylan is absent. But in this one, you don't, so
Oh, that was just me, because I have to add it, so I probably forgot to put it
yeah,
in.
so for a full record, so the most important thing about minutes and what New York State requires is the actual decision. So it's good to put the ayes, the nays, whether someone had to abstain or whether someone's absent for each of those votes. So, but this one you did, I think for the shul, you did remember to put
Yeah,
absent.
the shul it's in, I must have missed that other resolution.
And then I can't remember, I have to go to the top. Did you indicate that Mr. Garstack was sitting in for?
Alternate.
And the motion is supposed to actually have, I believe, the vote, 6-1, 3-2. And that helps because sometimes, let's say Orange County was to issue a general municipal law review where they disapprove the project. So when we refer to Orange County, they can say this is of local concern. They can say we approve it, but you have to make these modifications, or we disapprove it. If we don't agree with their modifications or the disapproval, we have to approve the project with a supermajority, so majority plus 1. So it's good to actually just make sure to note what the vote was. So you do have, yeah, at the beginning you did put Robert Garstack alt. So
I didn't
if
put
you
who
do
he
it,
was
if you
alternate
do it
for.
up here, because there is an alt that is sitting in for Dylan, I don't know that you have to say them member absent there, because you put it at the very beginning. Sitting in for, yes. So again, I didn't make any substantive changes except for the one that we just discussed.
Okay, I'll look for it.
And otherwise, these are all just red lines in terms of, again, trying to,
If you forward it,
yeah, distill it down a little bit. So Dylan cannot vote on these. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're good as far as. So Lewis was here, but he wasn't at the dais, but I believe you can vote if you had the opportunity to review the minutes. So do people want to vote this evening? Do you feel comfortable voting on the minutes? Okay. All right, so I make a motion that we approve the minutes of the Planning Board regular meeting of Tuesday, April 18th. May I have a second?
Second?
Noreen?
Napoli,
Aye.
Aye.
Bonnie Franson,
Aye.
Pat Shea,
Aye.
Okay.
Dylan Penn,
Abstain.
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 Thank you. So that's what I got through. We'll get through more the next one. Minutes, hopefully by the end of this week for last week, because we're trying to get them in by the
Right.
14th, within the 14 days.
Now, the
So-
21st, February 21st, we did a review on it. You submitted changes. I've made the changes.
Did we already vote on them?
All you have to do is vote on the
Okay.
February 21st.
Do we have everybody here?
You should, I didn't resend them today, but last week I had sent them with the agenda, I believe.
Okay.
But if not, we'll hold it. I know that we've gone over that when I made all the changes you had submitted.
No, so I think, and we didn't go over it at a meeting yet,
Not since I've made all the changes.
but did we go over it?
Beforehand, yes.
Okay, so then I will say, what was the date?
February 21st, 2023.
And do we have enough people here?
Oh, I didn't even, Bonnie, Pat, Dylan. In for Dylan, Pat. Well, yeah. No, Jeff was chairman. So
Okay.
I'll just put it back in my pile, and I'll shut up.
So just for the record, I just verified on the Orange and Rockland homepage, under industrial and commercial, it's called the Project Center, and they're assigned a project manager, not a POC. So just if we want to share that with them.
So you know what?
Hoping he doesn't
When
call
you,
me.
when you get to a computer later, why don't you send that to Sean or send it to Noreen?
I'll forward it to
Noreen, forward it to all of us, and then we'll also forward it to the applicant
Absolutely.
and say, please consider putting this into the portal. And we'll see what the reaction is.
project.
Well, they have two choices. I mean, they will be, I'm sure, concerned that if they put it in the portal, now it's going to delay them. Because
Not
now
a
it's
short
gonna-
process.
So perhaps they thought that because they were going through this other avenue, that they would get whatever it is they needed. And maybe that's where the holdup is. So, like I said, not our issue. But thank you for that. And yeah, if you'd share that with Noreen, and then we all can gain knowledge about the process. So, anybody have anything they want to add? Anything to go over? Anything to discuss? No? All right. With that, I'll make a motion that we adjourn the meeting. May I have a second?
Second?
All in favor say aye.
I have 4 seconds on that. I'm going to just pick the
Pick
light that I
one.
saw lit.
Can you
first.
add my second?